Hello and welcome to Welcome Home Radio. The waters in the mortgage industry can be pretty muddy, whether it's investing, leasing, renting, home insurance, or myths and misconceptions. Welcome Home Radio has the answers for you, the consumer. And now, to help you make the right home buying decision for you and your family, here are your hosts.
And welcome to Welcome Home Radio, where real estate lending and learning come together. This is your mortgage market update for April 28th. Stocks are slightly lower, and mortgage bonds are trading at near unchanged levels this morning. The MBA released their mortgage application data, and volume decreased by 2.5%. That is 2 weeks of volume decreasing by week. Purchases were down 5%, but are still 34% higher year over year. Refis are down 1% and have declined 18% year over year. Later today, Jerome Powell will be speaking, and we do not expect anything meaningful from this update, but we will be monitoring if he gives any insight to tapering or reducing of their purchases of mortgage-backed securities and treasuries. Also, President Biden will be speaking tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. We're likely to be covering the key topics of infrastructure, first-time homebuyer bills, and then more details on how taxes will be increased. With the market in an uproar, housing market in short supply, we wanted to focus on something that's happening in investment and secondary home market. Joining me today to discuss is Casey Moran with DMAX Investment Properties, Jeff Duffy with Fidelity Title, and of course, Alan Pace with Fathom Realty. Hello, folks. How are y'all?
Great. Hey, good. How you doing?
Great to see you, Blair.
We'll see if our producer can bring y'all in on the screenshots. He may be distracted a little bit, but guys, we're going to be. I want to remind all of our listeners: please like or share. Ask your questions live right here. We'll be watching the comments. We have these experts on for your benefit. And just to get us started, I want to kind of give an overview of rates of investment and secondary homes have risen almost 40 to 50 bips. Now, Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie are trying to ensure we don't fall into a 2008 crisis again and have raised rates for the reasons to limit their activity in secondary and investment properties. And what we're really trying to say is we want people to focus on their primary investment, their primary home, because secondary investments will go unpaid if they don't have the job, the income, the money to do that, or they don't have a lease agreement in. So again, I'm asking, hey, monkey butt, are you there? We want to get our folks to be able to see our guest. There we go. There they are. Yay. Hey guys, seriously, this is, you see this in the market. You see rates going up in this extreme. You see Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie getting involved. What is your taste right now in what you're seeing, and how is it being responded to by out there? Can you give us just a 50,000 foot overview?
Yeah, I can. It's, some of it is a market that personally I've never seen. And I was born into the home building industry in 1978 and grew up around it. And, you've just got such a little supply out there. But then at the same time, you've got this crazy supply chains that have been broken down and cost of materials have skyrocketed. And so new construction guys are starting to they're actually limiting their communities on the amount of houses that they'll even release, which I come from the home building world. That sounds nuts to me. I can't believe that they go to a community and say, you can only sell 7 houses this month. And guess what? We've already got a waiting list. So we're seeing things like that. And then you're also seeing just in your pre-existing market, multiple offers, houses on the market that are there for 2-3 days. Well, in a normal market, you could see a 30, 60, 90, 120 day cycle to sell your home. So also you're seeing a lack of supply out there just on the retail market. And from a 50,000 foot view, what's happened and what's going on right now is you got a lot of Wall Street money that's pouring in. So now you're just your regular, like me, mom and pop investor that wants to go out there and buy a home is not only competing with lack of supply, they're competing with institutional money. And then they're also competing with the fact that there's a ton of movement into this market from out of states where people just need homes. So you've got a situation right now where I don't know if 2020 or 2021 was harder to actually get out there and invest, but they've both been very interesting. It's just a matter of how do you get creative and survive in this climate.
I want to bring something up and Alan, I'm going to ask you this question, and please, Jeff, if you see this, I had a very interesting happening yesterday, literally on a pre-approval, basing on what Casey just shared with us. I could pre-approve this couple for FHA. And the realtor said, no, we can't do that. We have to go conventional. What's it going to take? And of course, they need to work on some things to get them to that level. And literally, I've never seen somebody turn down a pre-approval before, but they are focused on conventional. And by the way, they probably need $20,000 extra in the bank outside of the mortgage itself because they're probably going to be having to compete and go up. Is that what we're seeing, Alan? Is that what we're seeing, Jeff? What in the world is this craziness? When is it going to stop?
So right now, with all the brokers and agents, and Alan, of course, will chime in, but the couple of things I've been told recently, most real estate agents are averaging writing 6 contracts before they can get something accepted because of the battle. I had two recently. Agent said, we wrote an offer of $40,000 over list price. We did not get it. The biggest one yet was up in McKinney. They wrote an offer somewhere in the neighborhood of $75,000 over list price, and the seller said, hey, if you can make it 100, I think you'll win the bid. Now, those are extremes, but I mean, that's just the demand that's out there with the amount of buyers, and it's not. Those are folks still continuing to move into the Metroplex, right, Alan? As far as the exact numbers, I know you're watching that constantly.
Yeah, those that have are succeeding. Those that the programs are for, FHA, VA, they're not doing as well. So, new construction sometimes is a good thing for VA and FHA. They put those guys, they'll take. But with a seller using an agent or a real estate lawyer or somebody like that, their best interest is their pocketbook. They could care less if you are a veteran or if you are a Federal Housing Authority loan, or they don't care. They just want as much money as they can get. And I'm sure Casey would be the first to tell you, as a real estate investor, he's not doing this for fun. He's doing it for money. So the free market is what it is. Unfortunately, it's in Blair, as much as anybody does on this show, I always talk about the little guy and what the real people. To me, real estate's about real people. But as Casey so well pointed out, it's turned into a corporate thing. And you can even extend that to the buyers. They're loaded. They have, millions in the bank, hundreds of thousands in the bank. And first-time home buyers, they got no chance. I mean, no chance. And so it's difficult. I've not ever seen it to this extent ever. I mean, ever to this extent. I sold a lot of stuff.
That's two people that have stated the market we've never seen it like this before in their lifetime. So that is very interesting that we have a situation where it seems like FHA, USDA, even down payment assistance programs will never come close to winning an opportunity as long as this. Now, do we have an indication on how long this will last?
We'd all be billionaires if we knew stuff like that.
Right.
You're not?
Nope. Just an average guy with a weight bench with no weights on it.
Well, what's happening right now and what's going to stop it is really just the price that people can actually build a house for. So it's not necessarily going to be the demand. It's going to be that they're not going to be able, with their cost and their land basis. Sorry, I'm in Deep Elm. There's always sirens and everything going on. but their land basis cost is already at a certain point that now their material cost has risen so high that I literally went to a Highland home community that just now opened the model home. So we're talking about a grand opening community. All the marketing material said that it was low $400,000 community. They're starting in the 600,000s.
Because of cost.
Because of cost. And that's in DFW. There's other builders that are literally, I mean, my mom works at D.R. Horton. She called me the other day. They just figured out that they hadn't increased their cost on their additions. So let's say you wanted to add a bonus room upstairs to a floor plan, or you wanted to add a third car garage. They've been getting killed on it because you think about the lumber and the cost of lumber. Well, they didn't increase any of their prices. And you multiply that times, 1,500 homes sold in DFW, it's really affecting, and that small builder is getting killed by it. Now, what's happened is you're starting to see more of that movement to the outliers. That's where you have less competition with the institutional buyers because you get outside of their buy box. Your land basis gets to a point to where you can actually build a house for an affordable cost and still make a profit, because they got to make a profit to stay in business. And now with the ability to work from home, it starts to make sense. So I just read an article this morning that the Dallas North Texas Tollway is planning to extend all the way out to Grayson County. So you're starting to see infrastructure that's going, how can we help this? How can we help the small guy who can't compete in the inner market, but still needs to drive somewhere, still needs to get somewhere? So you're starting to already see infrastructure things that are going to help the small guy out, which.
Well, I'm going to put a plug in here. I'm going to do something at least four of all of us, I believe, enjoy. You know why that's happening, right? Going up there? It's because the Golf Hall of Fame is coming.
That's
because of the two major resorts being built and the golf club and so forth. We all got to be able to get there. Come on.
That's right. That's right.
That's the one thing that really hasn't changed over the years, infrastructure going out. When I bought in Flower Mound, it was out in the boonies. There was 4,500 people here. The police had a trailer. People were saying, what the hell are you going to live way out there for? I'm like, because I can afford it. So that part hasn't really changed a lot, helping people buy out, east of Rockwall or, West Fort Worth. You can still get value, but if it's just going to be farther out. And that hasn't ever changed, I don't think, in the last at least 40 years or so. You do grow and people come and you have to go out. So,
but that is a good point, Alan. But I think there's one major thing that's changed in the market that enhances that.
What's that?
Is that more and more jobs are working from home. You don't have to drive to an office.
Agreed.
They're wanting space. They're wanting home officing. They want the ability to work but enjoy and, like you say, get the best value for their dollar. So I don't see, Casey, Jeff, do y'all see a decrease in second home and investment properties financed? Because those cash buyers always are king. But are you seeing a decrease in this activity with people, or are you seeing an increase? What are you seeing in the market on secondary and investment properties?
It's definitely an increase in my business.
Increase.
An increase. There's still the margins there that they can go find, get a good contract on a property, and still be able to turn that property into a profit. It is still happening. There's an increase on my end. Even though, just like what Casey was talking about with the cost of with production going up, what I've read recently was it's an average of $25,000 per home of what the increased construction costs are. And that was even a personal friend of mine. They waited on finalizing some paperwork, not even 10 days, because they were changing the floor plan, and their price went up $27,000 because they waited 10 days because they were making a change. Now, the other key to this is when people are posting on social media, they have 4 sheets of plywood in the back of their truck, and they say, "Hey guys, I wanted to flaunt my wealth." That tells you what's happening in our market and the cost of construction. But Casey, back to you're seeing an increase as well?
Well, right now, yes. The challenge that we're running into is that you're not seeing an inflation in rental prices. So those people who are wanting to buy the secondary investment home, so used to what you could go buy a house for and your basis inside that house, rehab it and sitting there in the home, and then the rent that you could get, it could justify it. You could say, hey, that's a smart investment. What's happened is now you're having bidding wars on these houses, which is increasing your basis that you're going into this house, but you're not seeing the inflation of rate with it. I mean, as far as rent goes. So you're not seeing the rents jump like you're seeing the cost to get into the houses. So I believe over time, what happens is with these secondary home buyers that are not the institutional guys, that are not that they're not sophisticated, they may be sophisticated in their career field, but when it comes to real estate, when they start getting into it and realizing the real costs that they have in there, the insurance cost and holding that house, and oh, guess what? A hailstorm came through and I got to replace the roof, and all these things that start to happen when you're holding that secondary investment home, they go, the rent I'm getting for it, I can't afford. I'm not making any profit. There's no profit in that secondary home. So you're going to see some slowdown in that just until you start to see some of those rental rates increase along the side of the cost to actually get into the home. But it hasn't been long enough, and people haven't lost enough money yet to feel it. So they go, hey, this is a great idea. I saw a video and I think I want to do it, and I've got some extra money, so let's put it over here. But once they start to feel the pain, I see a slowdown coming in the future.
Well, I want to comment on, I don't want to miss out our listeners here. David Tanner's made some great comments. One, out-of-state buyers with deep pockets are edging out locals. True or false?
True.
Okay. Next, David, I don't know, you're asking for rates increase anytime soon. If you're doing a primary residence, are you asking for those rates? Are you asking for refinance? Are you asking for secondary investment? Because secondary investment have already increased. They've increased in excess of 50, 60, 70 bips already. So on secondary investment, yes. Do we expect any rates? I think Jerome Powell is going to make a statement later today. And if they continue to purchase mortgage-backed securities the way they are, then we'll see flat, unchangeable levels of interest rate. But if we see a slowdown or a decrease of Jerome Powell purchasing, we could see rates increasing. So it all depends on what's happening today. And of course, the president, quote unquote, talking tonight. We'll see how long he stays on and what he talks about. I've estimated some things there between infrastructure, tax rates, and then, of course, the bills that are coming out for buyers. And
another thing Blair, that influences this a little bit, what Casey was saying, is the rents can't go up. Well, you got a record number of people not working, making unemployment. Every business that you can look at is trying to hire people and can't. Truck drivers are in very high demand. And, if there's no trucks delivering, ain't none of us doing nothing. So there's a lot of factors here. And the thing that I haven't seen, the part that I never saw before in my lifespan has been everything coming together in a perfect storm. The lowest interest rates of my life. The pandemic thing, people working out of their house, the low supply of goods. I tried to buy a mountain bike yesterday. It's almost impossible. My God. Even to get the old one fixed, they weren't going to get tires until November at the Trek store. Okay?
Well, what you're saying is my son just sold his house And the final negotiations was, and the deterrent was, one couple required them to leave their refrigerator there. The other one finally said, no, we don't need to do it because of refrigerator limitations, power limitations. It's all dealing with this chip that we get from China, and we don't have them here. Production has gone across the board. Automotive, appliances, anything that requires a chip now is in more demand.
So hard times, there's got to be some adjustment. And adjustment usually means somebody has to get hurt. Either interest rates are going to go up and limit who can buy. But then again, the wealthy are still going to be able to. So I don't know if that fixes it like it used to. I don't know if that fixes it anymore.
Right.
So if you're paying $75,000 over list on a $550,000 house, you don't give a rat's butt about 0.5% or 1% of interest rate. You care less. So there's common sense that we got to deal with here too. And I just think I don't know what the answer is because I've not seen it like this before, but I know, Jeff and Casey are going to both agree. It's the rarest of situations where they're all coming together. And I don't think anybody really knows the way out. We're all scrambling. I'm doing my job different. I'm learning a lot doing it, and I'm getting through, but everybody's doing things a little different. I bet Jeff is. I bet Casey is. I know you are. We're all trying a little different to make this thing run efficiently, and it goes all the way down to the hardware store and to the people that, do the painting on the houses. You can't get anybody to paint your house for 3 months. They're busy. So everybody's scrambling to have good service, still do a good job, hire good help that does the good job, be able to pay my employees and pay for the goods that I have to supply to them to do the job. In the meantime, there's no houses. I mean, literally, we're under a 1 month supply. That's ridiculous. 6 is considered kind of all right, get lower than 6. 1 month? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that doesn't even include the fact that we had a freeze that we've never seen in our entire life that caused massive destruction. We were in a state of emergency. There was so much water damage. So you already had all these guys out there working that had a ton of work. Now try to get a plumber. Now try to get, your sheetrock. Sheetrock prices skyrocketed. One of the largest producers of concrete here in DFW went under during the freeze. So all of a sudden, all these things, then how do you get the development? All these things have been a storm, and not to sound down on it, because I remember being a kid in the savings and loan crisis, and I remember the situation, my whole family experience was different. I remember the dot-com bust in the 90s, and I remember when 9/11 happened, and it just shut the market down, and it was a shock. And if you were sitting out there drawing interest, it was a problem. And I remember sitting in a model home in 2008, my builder saying, good luck, we're not starting any more communities. So it's happened, and it will happen again. If you really need a home, the thing that I've been advising people is, especially if you're local, one of the advantages you have if you're local is relationships. And so I say there's nothing better than reaching out to your relationships and going back to that when I first got into real estate school, that whole go walk into a neighborhood and knock doors. Literally go knock doors. Go back to that old school method of building a relationship and seeing if you can make an offer on somebody's home, or is there somebody at your church that's getting ready to sell a home that really likes you and didn't even realize you were looking for a home? But if you're talking about it with your relationships, all of a sudden, instead of maybe going, hey, I need to get $25,000 more because I think I can get it, they go, you know what, I really like Jeff and his family, and I know I'm going to sell my home. Why don't we just see if we can work it here? That's the way that I've gotten creative.
Are you sure, Jeff?
Blair, maybe Blair. I agree. Maybe not Jeff.
Sitting here, so
finding that has been my saving grace, and being able to still invest and find investment properties it's all come down to the relationships and people giving me an opportunity to look at something before they put it on the market. That's the only way that I've been able to stay successful, is because if it goes into a bidding war, when I'm dealing with a sophisticated, disciplined formula, I can't compete. I can't. My formula says don't buy here. I can't buy there. I have to buy based on it making sense. And what's being bought a lot of times nowadays, it doesn't make sense. But you can still
it's totally emotional.
Well,
I think it's totally emotional.
I'm getting 20 calls and texts a week from investors wanting to look at my stuff before it goes on the market. And you guys are getting them too, I'm sure. So there's a little bit of, people are getting wore out on that too. It's just bang, bang, bang. You got to work relationships. Casey's right. Real estate's about relationships, and that is a great way to build your business. There's different ways to do it. I literally get 20 calls a week. No kidding. The other thing I want to mention is TREC and NAR and Texas Association of Realtors are coming out with a new form, and it's just out. I don't even know if it's out yet. 1503, I think it is. It's basically covering. It's a CYA thing for realtors. We can't help it. We don't control the market prices. If you're going to pay $75,000 over, now they want another piece of paper saying they understand. Now the contract should say that, and it does. I'm buying it. I'm an adult, borrowing money, blah 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 blah. But now there's another form coming out. I think it's 1503 is what they're going to call it. I just read about it yesterday, and that's another CYA that they're putting for realtors to not have to be responsible, because it's hard to look at somebody like Casey said. You just built a relationship over 3 years, and now they're ready and you're ready, and they're looking at you like it's your fault. So there's another form coming out that we're going to be signing.
Wow.
Great.
Oh no.
I know.
Wow.
I know. It's like you took the chance, and here he is.
I'm sorry. I should have told Mark we weren't accepting any more hosts into the show. We're done. Sorry, guys.
It's a little too late now, ain't it?
There we go. Good job, Mark.
I know one thing. I'm pretty sure I got too much hair for this show.
Now, how did you do that?
That's why he wears that baseball cap all the time. Well, Tom, we are discussing secondary and investment properties. What's the status of the market? And we've kind of given an overview of some things going on, but give us your 50,000-foot overview real quick of why the increase in interest rates just on investment in secondary. And secondly, is Jerome Powell's conversation and or the president tonight going to make any changes to rate and or inflation?
Well, I like the question on inflation, because I've only said for the last 10 years we're going to see inflation. So I've only been wrong for 10 years in a row.
This year is the year.
But last year, one thing my daughter graduated with was a degree in supply chain management. And I will tell you that for a year at least, we've had the supply chain pretty much broken. And you can't go in a capitalistic society without knowing what your costs are going to be next year, and what it's going to cost you to get something from one place to another. You can't go for this long a period of time, have this kind of disruption, but not legitimately see some type of inflationary push. And I think my final draw on that, what is that, too many donuts? Clearly the supply chain is not broken on Donuts.
Welcome to the bakery.
But but when we're talking about lumber and when we're talking about plumbing and PVC piping and just things that go into our house, shingling, everything, and the increase in the cost of labor as well.
Yep.
When we see that all, compiled together, and I'm even more so convinced today than ever before, we don't realize how much not only did we rely on China, but India is another source of place where we have some things that we get that are super cheap that they're not going to be able to ship. And it looks like they're going to have some real damage from this COVID thing. Mm-hmm. And so we rely this on a worldwide economy. We can't build everything in the United States. I know I'm in favor of us doing as much as we can here, but just simply we don't have the materials to do certain things to get done in other countries. And not only the fact that we can't cut down enough trees to build the houses we need in our own country. So all this
what's your answer here? You've
we're going to see inflation.
Tom, could you explain why?
Do what now? Yeah, get out of here. Obviously, I've been talking all morning long, so all I've done is beat around the bush with my 25 students I've got.
You're giving a great political answer. There is nothing, you didn't put a stake in the ground. You didn't do anything.
I got to talk for another 8 hours. I don't know. Maybe I should just be looking today.
I go back to talking.
That's good. That's great.
Fair enough.
Well, guys, I mean, to cap it off here, to summarize, okay, there's a lot of competition. Inventory is very, very low. Demand is still very high. I'm shocked that a realtor stated I cannot work with them unless they have a conventional pre-approval, even though they're pre-approved FHA. Is the same thing happening with VA out there? I would hate to hear that VA loans are being turned down because they're not conventional.
Be clear about that. First off, it's a free market. Any client can say no to any realtor. Any realtor can not work with a client. It's just that simple. So yeah, there's some realtors that make so much money they don't deal with the so-called more risky type loan folks. They don't have to. But on the other hand, I just love the FHA VA folks, and I work with as many as I can, and we work through it. And somebody said it earlier, it is an average of 6 offers to get it accepted, something like that. But
FHA is limited, dude. FHA is limited to a loan amount. So that is a limiting factor where you can't go up like conventional and or VA.
But it covers most of the pertinent people.
I'm sorry?
It covers most of the FHA does a great job with the money that they offer. I mean, people are well within that range, the ones I've worked with. That's plenty of money to work with. So a listing agent is different. Their thing is to take care of their client, 100%. And they do the best they can do based on the offers they're getting. And yeah, if you get 50,000 over and it's cash, you're probably going to take that over 75,000 over, even if it's conventional or whatever. But
Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, but or Tom, but with a VA, there's no waiver of appraisal. I mean, they can't. Am I correct with that? That's not a VA form. That's not allowed. So that limits the ability to say, hey, we'll offer you that much more. Am I on track there?
That's correct.
So that's very limiting, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it just got to boil down to, when you're a listing agent, it's just, you're like king now. You're being inundated with offers and offers and offers. I'm not kidding you. It's like some are getting 20, 25 offers, and they're doing it. A realtor will put it on the market on a Thursday. It shows Friday and Saturday, and you got to have your offer in by Sunday at 5. Right, Casey?
That's right. That's right. And the thing that's interesting that we've started to see a lot of, and I think a lot of it has to do with the talks about the capital gains tax going up. We've started to see large basically somewhere between 15 to 100 home portfolios where somebody was owning all these houses and renting, and they're concerned about collecting rents because rents aren't being paid. They're concerned about holding on, and then they're also at the height of the market. So you're starting to see some large portfolios, which once again, for the small guy, it takes them out of the mix, because you have to have millions of dollars to be able to capitalize and purchase a whole portfolio. So you're still, once again, who's helping the small guy? And now builders are even putting in, I know builders out there that are writing in their contract that they have the right to increase the price through the build cycle. I've never seen anything like that. Usually you go in and you contract on a house and that's the price. They're starting to write. I mean, as a real estate agent and you're taking your client in and you're representing him, we really have to read through what the builder's putting in their contract right now, because it could be detrimental to your client if they get with the wrong builder and they're putting something in there. There's talks right now that I've heard, and I don't know personally, but I know people that have got on waiting lists, bought new construction homes, and as soon as they close on it, turn around and sell it. Because like you said, supply and demand, there is no supply out there, and they know if I can just close on this home, I can turn around and sell it, make a profit. That's unheard of in these communities. And appraisals are now being affected by this. Their house in new construction communities are at times now not able to keep up with the inflation of the pricing that they're putting out there. So now you go out there and, like Jeff spoke on, with the VA loan, you go buy a new construction home and you think, I'm going to be okay because it's a new construction loan. You get to the very end and now it doesn't appraise. What do you do now? Unless you have cash in the bank, you lose your earnest money. It's very, very, like what's been said, it's something that I can't explain. I've never seen. I don't know when it's going to stop, but there's definitely supply chains broken down. There's insulation and roofing and all sorts. And that, what we don't realize, but as a big builder, they're drawing interest every day. So when they can't get the window in, or they can't get the decking in, and they can't build the house, like we said, we have to have a predictable cost. They can't predict their cost anymore because they don't know how long it's going to take them to build their house.
Let me bring up one other thing that you guys may or may not be aware of. I think Tom is a little bit, and it's really important to what the president says tonight, and possibly even Jerome Powell, but more the president. Servicers on mortgages are looking at a change through this administration on huge fees. And a lot of servicers are starting to sell their servicing off for that fact of taxes. Tom, I know you're muted right now, but I need your attention. What do you know about this? What have you heard, so that you can give us some insight to why servicing is being looked at for a tax base concern for the federal government?
Well, probably the major factor with that is Congress has controlled about 60% of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac for the last 14 years. And it's been a profit center for them for 14, 15 years. So the rules they write through Fannie and Freddie affect that bottom line of the $25 billion dividend check they set for themselves every year. So I'm not as familiar with that. That's why I was going to, kind of assess it. Next week, I'll be an expert.
I finally put him on the spot and I stumped him.
But I understand the motivation behind it, or the underlying piece is that Congress is so reliant on that ownership of Fannie and Freddie, and it's just been a buffer zone for them now for more than a decade, because they don't have enough money to pay their bills, and that's been subsidizing our Congress for a decade. 10 years as far as the previous 10 years. And so
I say give them a $15 flat pay out per hour and let them go and leave it at that instead of all these privileges.
Well, and again, we'll see how it fleshes out, because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are intended to be private enterprise. I mean, they're publicly held companies. I can still buy stock in Fannie and Freddie, so that hasn't changed them. But every corporation is a person too nowadays, and we cater to corporations, and so. It'll be interesting, the offshoot of what, because in order to do these big projects that are being proposed and do $1.9 trillion worth of fundraising, I mean, it's going to take some capital coming in. There's going to have to be some money coming in, and whether it was we haven't seen a change in the federal tax rate on gasoline for more than 35 years. So that's where I thought it would fall, but it's not. That hasn't even come up, which I don't understand that sacred cow. As far as for a good flow of tax revenue could help. We know that the new tax policy, if he does start charging for those people that make more than $1 million a year, I'm going to be clearly affected.
So has there been, with the increase of capital gains, is there a number that's been thrown out there? I haven't seen it.
You have to make $1 million a year.
Okay, so
which affects about 0.03% of the top 1%.
So we're not considering that to be a good shot in the arm, really. It's just a.
Well, I mean, it will. It'll absolutely be a subsidy. It doesn't cover the whole nut. That's the problem. In theory, it will cover a fair amount of it, but we've got these other problems, I think, systematically with, it's $1 trillion here, it's $1 trillion there. And we've already had now the biggest increase in the last 4 years of our national debt ever. And so sometimes we're going to have to pay the piper somewhere along the way. And it looks like, I thought it might be my generation, but it looks like, no, it's going to be my kids and their kids. And
they kicked the can pretty far down the road, that's for sure.
That can is got some mileage on that can.
Rolling. Well, guys, I appreciate it. David and all of our listeners, I appreciate you. Find us on KVGI Media on YouTube or Facebook. Like, share. Ask your questions here. Our next show is going to be May 12th. Again, our next show will be May 12th. If you have an idea for one, please share it with us. But Casey, Jeff, I appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much for the time. Good luck on your golf games. I hope they're working well. I know Alan has held out, and Tom's come lately, so he's never on time. He'll miss a tee time.
I will say this. This is the best looking group of speakers we've had, I think, in months.
All right.
Too bad our listeners can't see it.
Hey, well, thanks again. I'm Blair Thomas.
And I'm Tom Holm.
I'm Alan Pace.
God bless. Y'all have a great rest of your week.